start. nañ fata yoon bi rek dañooy fata yoon bi rek ñu close ñoom ñu ñëw fi non ongolos dañooy nañ fata fii rek yow puusare ñu close bu génn
Wow. Huh? For the past 5 minutes, guy, you don't have it. For the past 5 minutes, guy, you don't have it. Why am I going to tell you across? Huh? So, find a fuel station, filling station. Wow, don't watch a wow, man, don't watch a hello, Mangla Dega. Wow, Mangla Dega, hello. Manga Kasika Bijar, Manga Jam. The media houses are growing now and developing. We need to encourage them, especially TV. Seeing the AIM to Senegal. So we hope our media houses will also grow. That is why one of them is just asking us to wait for program. I think a little bit more patient with each other.
Yes, but it's a part. Yes, 60 people have here, so. No, dama koy bàyyi bu ko jëlee ne dafay continuer non soo ko bàyyee nii su network bi nii dafay continuer non man maa ngi laaj te crédit moom du mën a def li nañ tëj booy puusal na puus na moom puus yow tamit non yow toogal boo naa tëj yow toogal kii dafay ñëw kii dafay ubbi tànkay su ko ubbee rek du ma mën a am space soo loolu moo tax foog mu ubbi de soo yoon boobu nañ use nii rek ko defee nii rek ñu use soket bi muy ne si gannaaw toogu ko muy fa
Please, we can also have our mobile phones on silent. Please.
wala su fekkee ne defuñu waya bi mut na
ñëw na
Is everybody set?
almost just 2 minutes
xam nga ñun dañ koy transport loolu moo tax soo ko tegee te waxul dafay jël tuuti mu waxtaan
waaye
right.
Sorry, if you want to do the recording, put our foot in our flight mode. So that when you ring it,
Yeah, that's fine. Dem.
something to now go to the other, and it is going to be chaired by Mrs. Halifa Sallah.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen of the press. So this press conference is about the Kanilai incident and other pertinent issues. So Halifa is going to read a statement in that effect, and then afterwards you can ask any question you're interested in issue. Thank you very much. We welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Events of far-reaching importance are developing in the Gambia. As the country strives to give content to the new Gambia, that people of diverse backgrounds hope to build as a result of a change of government through the consent of the sovereign people for the first time in Gambian history. No one would have envisaged that in less than 6 months after the emergence of a new government, blood would stain the corridors of state power. This should compel all Gambians to take a pause and ask, what has gone wrong? And what are we to do to right it? This is the demand of truth and justice under our times and circumstances. This is the urgent task precisely because the clarion call of the coalition 2016 is to give Gambia a new start. Hence, if that new start is blemished by bloodstains, each Gambian should speak and act in accordance with the dictates of conscience and the national interest. This is the only way we could speak with one language. This is the only way we could give shape and content to the concept of one Gambia, one nation, one people. The incident in Kanilai gave birth to whipping and gnashing of teeth on one side, and the cocking of guns and the issue of warnings on the other. This is not the recipe for building the new Gambia that all just Gambians envisage. The new Gambia must be a sovereign republic with a sovereign people. This is the commandment of the Constitution of the Republic, which should shape the thinking, values, and practice of the people, the state, parties, security forces, the CSOs, all members of society. Section 1, subsection 1 of the Constitution commands that the Gambia is a sovereign republic. Subsection 2 adds that the sovereignty of the republic resides in the people of the republic. Hence, all Gambians are equal before the law, says section 33 of the Constitution. None should be discriminated by being subjected to any disadvantages on the basis of ethnicity, religion, gender, race, birth, origin, language, political opinion, or affiliation, or any other status. This is the basis of national unity and good neighborliness among the sovereign people of the Gambia. Subsection 2 did not only make each citizen a depository of the sovereign power and authority of the nation, it goes further to establish who should exercise power and how, which is the basis of democracy. It reads, sovereignty of the country resides in the people of the Gambia, from whom all organs of government derive their authority, and in whose name and for whose welfare and prosperity the powers of government are to be exercised. The essence of democracy is clear. It starts with giving each citizen sovereign power and authority. Each citizen. It makes it mandated for any authority to govern to be derived from the authority of those citizens. Thirdly, it makes it mandatory for authority derived from the consent of the people to be exercised, to be utilized to promote the general welfare and prosperity of the people. Full stop. Hence, democracy is rooted in the sovereign equality of all citizens and does not recognize the separation of citizens into majority and minority ethnic groups, religions, gender, and any other status. Hence, the duty of a people in a sovereign republic is to recognize each other's sovereignty and live together in the spirit of sovereign equality and goodwill. The state, which has institutions, must derive the authority of those institutions from the will of the people and utilize the authority to promote the welfare of the people. Any state that fails to do that in a sovereign republic is unfit to govern. In the same vein, the role of the security forces in a sovereign republic is to safeguard the sovereignty of the republic and the people and protect their lives and properties. Any security force that is not bound by such principles and values is a killing machine. Such senseless and conscienceless killing machines is what tyrants rely on to impose reigns of impunity. CSOs in a republic have the duty to amplify the needs of the republic and as principal interlocutors advocate for the satisfaction of the rights of the people, of the needs of the people, and ensure their consolidation and enlargement so that the people will enjoy greater liberty and prosperity. These are the values of the new Gambia, which join the coalition to engender and defend, and for which we were ready to live or die for during the impact. Hence, all developments in the Gambia must be weighed against such principles and values. The Kanilai incident is no exception. Suffice it to say, it is important to review the issue of security before narrating and drawing relevant lessons to address the event in a judicious manner and prevent reoccurrence. State security has scope and scale in terms of gravity and weight. The reaction of a state to incidents which may have security concerns should depend on the scope and scale of security threats or otherwise, which is determined by weight and gravity of the actions concerned. In short, to every action that has to do with state security, there should be equal and opposite reaction, which aim to ward off any threat and prevent its emergence. For example, when soldiers or armed civilians move to the state house and other corridors of power with arms to overthrow a head of state and government, that would be considered the height of or zenith of security threat. The state must mobilize loyalist forces to defend its legitimacy. This is the basis of most civil wars in Africa. On the other hand, rebel movements may also enter a country without gaining any strong ground, and mass uprising may occur which opens up the seat of government to visible threat of overthrow, but not having the strength to do so. Here too, the army and other security forces may have a major role to play to ward off the threat by only using the minimum of force necessary to achieve their purpose to prevent or minimize loss of life and damage to property. It stands to reason that when demonstrators aim to express grievances in a peaceful and spontaneous manner, near to or away from the corridors of power, without any destruction of life or property or posing any threat to the seat of government, then the action should be seen as civil disobedience and a threat to public order and not a threat to state security. A threat to state security requires the combined forces of armed and law enforcement agents. On the other hand, a threat to public order requires the presence of only the law enforcement agents. Their method must either be to escort to prevent any damage of property or confrontation with other opponents, or disperse the perpetrators if threat to life or property becomes evident. How then do we classify the Kanilai incident? Is it a threat to state security or civil disobedience and threat to public order? The answer to the question is simple. The fact that those arrested are charged under the public order rather than with treason confirms that the incident was a matter of civil disobedience and public order, which should be handled by the police and not a matter of state security, which should be handled by joint forces of military and law enforcement forces. The police should know when and what to do to escort and diffuse civil disobedience without any arrest or commotion, and when to disperse by using minimum force without any loss of life or property. This should be a byproduct of appropriate training and experience in dealing with such matters. The origin of the country. Kanilai is the hometown of the ex-president of the country, ex-president who left the country under an agreement with the UN, AU, and ECOWAS negotiators for him to leave in a haste by getting assurance that his properties and supporters will be protected. The UN, AU, ECOWAS negotiators did not proceed to sign a document with President Barrow to get him to also commit himself to the declaration of intention of the negotiators. Hence, two claims are being made why Gambian and economic forces are in Kanilai. Some claim that the Gambian soldiers and economic forces are stationed in Kanilai to protect the properties of the ex-president and maintain security in the border. Others, especially residents of Kanilai, claim that they are an occupation force which is making impossible for them to live a normal life. Hence, on this day, the residents of Kanilai and their sympathizers gathered together at the car park in a bid to conduct public demonstration to ask the state to remove military forces from Kanilai so that they could live normal lives. They then moved with their banners towards Campen. Many newspapers were called to go and cover the matter, since most do not have regional reporters, many arrived late. However, modern technology did provide sketchy details. What is clear is that the marchers did pass the encampment of Gambian soldiers. However, when they came to the encampment of economic soldiers, they had a blockage. The reports did not indicate any injury of economic soldiers due to the use of traditional weapons. What is evident is the use of bullets and the injury of 9 persons, one of whom eventually died of his bullet wounds. This is how matters stand. what are the lessons? Some people have argued that the Kanilai incident is the final attempt by the German forces to show their degree of organization and preparedness to restore peace rule. And such people are calling on the Barrow administration to take the incident as a threat to state security. Interestingly enough, despite the shooting and the arrest of Kanilai residents, the rebels of Tun Aludeto have not retaliated for the sake of kinship or ethnic tie. One is therefore left to wonder who will be using arms to support the demonstrations to bring Jammeh back to power. The nation needs to be enlightened if someone has the facts. Fiction cannot provide raw materials for policy making or for devising strategies and tactics. Others have argued that the use of live bullets on demonstrators 6 months in office is a signal of a return to the past, marked by intolerance of dissent, which gave rise to April 10-11 killings, and that was so Sunday. I am starting to give the Barrow administration a similar type of rating that Gambia has. Where do you stand? I ask the nation. If the nation takes sides, the issue of Kanilai incident would be reduced to a Barrow versus Jammeh affair. This would be a distortion of the demands of our situation. The question that all Gambians should address is whether the Barrow administration should preoccupy itself with challenges of the second coming of the Jammeh administration, or those of building the new Gambia. History has already settled this question. In short, when ex-President Jammeh refused to leave office, President-elect Barrow had 2 options. He had the challenge to focus on Jammeh's refusal to leave office and mobilize protest movements and demonstrators to oust him, or focus on his victory and prepare the ground of addressing the challenges of assumed office when the term of office of the incumbent expired. He chose the latter, and this is why he assumed office in peace and tranquility. His challenge now is how to build a new Gambia in peace and tranquility. What is the way forward? It is very clear that death has occurred. And when death occurs, this matter is no longer a Kanilai issue, a political issue, a national issue. It's an international issue. It is an issue of humanity. So it is important that within the law, a coroner's inquest is conducted and recommendations made by the coroner implemented. It is important as a Gambian people to look at this incident as a Gambian incident rather than a partisan incident or an ethnic incident. It is important for all Gambians to seek the facts and then promote reconciliation. The government has taken the posture that in a transitional arrangement, you need transitional justice. So it is important for the government to utilize this incident as an example of how that transitional justice, which brings about truth as well as reconciliation, could be effective. So the authorities responsible for bringing into being that transitional justice system should speed up and ensure that this issue is handled in that regard. It is important to look at the presence of economic forces in the Gambia. The fundamental objective is clear. The economic forces are forces of solidarity, not forces of occupation. So if any sector of Gambian society sees them as a force of occupation, the economic forces should look inwards and find out why, and make sure that what makes those people see them as forces of occupation is actually remedied. The economic forces, the Gambian forces, are Republican forces. Their role is to defend the sovereignty of the country and the sovereignty of the people. It is not to take part in ethnic strife or political strife, but to ensure that they enhance the unity of the people. In short, the Republican forces, wherever they are based, must provide services to the population. They must have doctors, build hospitals or centers, even if they are in tents, and make sure that all the needs of a village, of a region, is actually handled by them in order to ensure that the people get closer to them because of the size they are. Republican forces are forces trained in many instances to be able to build facilities for people, provide plumbing and other facilities for people, so that ultimately when they leave behind development rather than being seen as killers. So it is important that if these forces are to be stationed in Kanilai, orientation must be given because of the sensitivity of the area, and the training must be linked to Republican values, democratic values, and care to the community. That the security forces constitute a part of the service structure of the republic, just like the health sector, just like the education sector and all other sectors. So it is therefore important that the orientation be done so that the real purpose of their placement in any part of the Gambia will be known by the people in that region. Fundamentally, the state need to issue another statement other than the statement that was originally given. A statement of reconciliation. A statement that will call the people in the area to come together to discuss about the way forward. A statement that will call on the National Assembly members from the area, the governor, the religious leaders, the alcalos, the elders, and to ensure that other parts of the country become involved in the whole process so that a way out is actually provided to prevent the occurrence of the incident. In terms of those who are arrested or under the threat of arrest, by the reorientation of the forces existing in the area, and the community approaches that will be taken to make sure that all seek and work to bring the unity that is necessary and the conciliation necessary. It is believed that trust will be built. It is also important to look at the issue of prosecution. It is better to utilize the method. The Public Order Act is under scrutiny. There has been incidents in the last government, under the last government, which involve opposition leaders charged under the Public Order Act. And there are many sections of the law that are now being challenged at the Supreme Court, so that Gambia will become a democratic country that will allow freedom of expression, freedom of association with greater tolerance. Since there are many questions it is better to utilize transitional justice to ensure that we all have a new start in the country. We are convinced that once these measures are taken, the Kanilai incident will be a matter for the past, not just to push it in the past. How Gambia did overcome a crisis to be in a manner that will ensure that we move along the path that we have chosen for ourselves, the path of democracy, the rule of law, good governance, a path of national unity, a path of one Gambia, one nation, one people.
Thank you very much, Halifa. Now, the gentlemen and ladies of the press, you can give your name and your media house, and then you ask any question. You want to go?
I want to ask again.
Yes, please just give your name. So can I take everybody and then I think okay, then sit down.
Yes, thank you very much. The presentation is absolutely clear and clear. My question is with regards to the economic forces in Kanilai. Well, following the announcement of the incident, we've seen a statement being produced by ECOWAS extending the mandate of economic forces in the Gambia. In your opinion, do you think the extension of this mandate is good in the name of the Gambia, or it is bad? If it is bad, why is it bad? And if it is good, why do you think it is good? Thank you.
It is important to always focus on the people of the country as the sovereign owners of the country. And to focus on Section 79 of the Constitution, we emphasize that the states should engage in foreign policy that defends the sovereignty of the country and the sovereignty of the people. So one should not see economic forces in isolation to the Gambian population. And how the Gambian population sees them matters a great deal. I handled the affairs of this country during the impact. And then President Barrow was in that. I had opportunity to interact with the economic forces. But the agreement is very clear. We have a Gambian armed force responsible for the sovereignty of the country, as well as the sovereignty of the people. So the economic forces are forces of solidarity to be able to ensure that the government, which suffered threat at the beginning because of the refusal of the incumbent to go, would be secure enough to rely on its own security forces through transformation of the security apparatus, through armed forces reform, security forces reform, intelligence reform, to upgrade the staff in all those institutions so that they'll be able to defend a new Gambia. This is the idea. So once that idea remains, then economic forces are not a threat to national sovereignty or the sovereignty of the people. They serve as a solidarity instrument, and Gambians too could go to any other country to do the same to protect democracy and freedom. Problems come. Economic forces are stationed. Economic forces are not only Senegalese forces. Ghanaians are part of the continent. Nigerians are part of the continent. So therefore, that should be manifested. Gambians do not even know the composition. This should be clearly explained. They should be able to interact with the population. Their mandate should be known by the population. So there is a weakness in communication to enable the Gambian people to know the composition of the economic forces and their mandate. And as I have emphasized, what we need now is reorientation of those forces. Gambians should not want a single economic force to die in the Gambia, because they did not come after Jammeh left, while Jammeh was here. They entered after Jammeh had gone. They were at the borders, getting ready for war with all their might. Land, sea, air. Armed to the teeth. They were ready to war to uproot. But Gambians, through the Gambian consensus, ensured that the person who was in the State House had nobody to go. And he left, knowing that. So, based on that, they came in when there was peace. There was Kanilai when Jammeh was leaving. There was Farad when Jammeh was there. There was everything that we in this place. Without destruction of government materials in the offices, without any cars, government cars disappearing, and without anybody killing each other. So, if we were able to achieve that, without forces of solidarity, with forces of solidarity, there should be, in fact, greater stability. So something is wrong somewhere, and that's what I'm saying. We need to interrogate it and find out what and address it immediately. That is really the task. It's not whether economic force should be in the Gambia or should not be in the Gambia. And as I have said, anywhere you see a force of solidarity, you must have the contingent to be highly trained and highly skilled. And you must know the needs of the people, and you must know the terrain. Otherwise, they'll appear to those people as force of occupation. And don't tell those people that, no, don't see them as force of occupation. What is being done to endear them to the population? That is the question.
Thank you.
I have two questions. I'm not inside of Family Network. Actually, Family Network. There are several incidents of Kanilai, like the one in Farato. But you just focus on Kanilai. I don't know why you...
Of traditional weapons used to harm an economic force, a Gambian force. You have them, tell me the individual, then I will know. But then my statement will be questionable. As far as I know, I have not given any report of a traditional weapon used to harm. To be armed with traditional weapons, that's another matter. To have a knife, that's another matter. To display them and show that you are valor, that's another matter. But who are you threatening in Kanilai? With a knife, with a machete? Who are you threatening? Because we are not told that the forces that are in Kanilai, economic or Gambian forces, when those people demonstrate and etc., when they have confrontation in Kanilai. I'm not aware. And obviously it is foolhardy to go and burn tires and do all those things when those people have guns. You know, those people in fact will be laughing at you and know that, well, okay, express your frustration. You know, that's an expression of frustration. What can you do? Are you a threat to the person with the gun? I think you understand what I'm saying. That the person who controls force is restrained. That's why you call it a disciplined force. Because a person has the force to destroy you. So therefore, that person can exercise more restraint and allow you to express your frustration. It's not that the expression of frustration is legitimate, is right. That's not the issue. It's that this is what you choose to do. But then let it not harm this thing. Let it not destroy the property of this thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. How do you handle that? It is a problem. It's a challenge. But how do you handle it? It's the problem of handling. Abusive words, yes, people use them every day. Every street corner, anybody who has a chance will insult Jammeh, will insult the Barrow, you know. This shows the value system that you Gambians hold. Have we reached a higher value system where we are tolerant to each other, where we accept each other's diversity, where we can coexist in peace? That is a challenge. That will not drop from the sky. We must build it. And from the state level, it is duty bound to nurture it. This is what we are emphasizing. Now, the issue that you mentioned, whether the Minister of Interior has said this or has said that, that's the opinion of the Minister of Interior. What would I have said or done? That's what we are telling you. If we are handling the affairs of government, this is how we will handle it. Just imagine what happened during the impasse. Posting soldiers with sandbags in the street. What was more threatening than that? And do we believe that those people were not going to use those weapons if they were threatened? March in the street and see what would have happened. March towards the State House and see what would have happened. They will use it. Those were the instructions. But then, by simply saying, give those soldiers attire or cigarette when you can, ignore them, that is just tactic. It's demystifying. It's diffusing. So that those people who are threats will not be threats. That's a matter of strategy. It's a matter of tactics. There's maturity in leadership that you must exercise. Let me just give you an example. Marches. Where were they going? When you see marches, obviously you can bring the police to start escorting, which means you contain them. The first object in terms of security measure is to contain the threat. And containing threat is bring your police forces so that along with them, they guard them. You know, consulting them, or any other people who have authority, so that they will speak to them. That would be another measure of creating a buffer. Thirdly, where were they going? We still need to investigate all that. So if they want to march 10 kilometers, well, you are escorting them 10 kilometers. By the 28th kilometer, how will they be like? Let's say you even give them water to drink. Or at the 20th, farthest kilometer, you cook food for them and say, hey, come and sit down and eat. So what I'm trying to say is that a new state must develop tactics and strategies of diffusing threats that is fundamentally different from the state that we face. That's my emphasis. No one is saying that what happened there is right, wrong, etc. That's not the issue. But what we have emphasized here is that Gambians must know that security is concrete, it's not imaginary. You cannot sit here and say, look at this, Gambia is ready to go. That's why these people are consulting. They are gaining confidence. You know, when Gambia himself was here, when the rebels were in Casamance, when Kanilai was there, whoever is so powerful in Kanilai to bring Gambia was there, and that person could not prevent Gambia from moving. When he had control of the security machinery, so how are those people going to bring Gambia back? So these are issues that people imagine and build upon. Nobody is saying that somebody cannot be a terrorist, you go and go there. That is the way of the world. But the threat of a force, mighty military force of rebel Casamance was, you know, supporting Gambia and coming and invade Gambia and take over the power of state. And clearly, if anybody has the facts, maybe they should help the nation to know what those facts are. At least I do not have those.
Permit. Issue of permit.
And the issue of permits, well, you see, I will not even deal with the law, because the law is still being questioned. During Dabo's case, you saw that that was the general feeling of people. That why do you need a permit to demonstrate? Because the the Constitution says you have a right to vote. Of course, you can create laws, and that's what exists now under the Public Order Act. But the Public Order Act was enacted during the colonial days. So should we still retain those laws? I know the recommendation is to review such a law. Since we are now in the process of transitional justice and reviewing, reforming our laws, this is not the time to indict people on the basis of laws that they are reforming. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it's not a question of legality. It's a question of time and circumstances. Our time and circumstances is that we've taken over power, questioning the legitimacy of all those actions. And therefore, if we legitimize them by court actions and conviction, well, what can we say about reform anyway? Then we are not reformers. So we should abandon reform because we are not reformers. That's the point. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Keba, representing Korean Keba. I'm supposed to undergo Halifa Sallah. And my question is in twofold. The first one is, Honorable Sallah, can you please tell us what your verdict is on the Kanilai incident? Because we've seen conflicting reports. Some are saying it was a peaceful demonstration, some are saying it wasn't. Now, what is your verdict on that? And the second thing is, what would DOI under your leadership do, especially in terms of engaging the government of today to make sure that the Kanilai incident is addressed, and it will also go in a long way to avoid the occurrence of the Kanilai incident, not only in Kanilai, but throughout the country?
Thank you very much. And if you look at your first question, it is key for a government to look at the Kanilai incident from a very objective point of view. What is the objective point of view? We are not judges, but the government must make decisions, so we wait facts. So now you are looking at the map. Yes, there was violent demonstration in Kanilai. What is violent demonstration? When you say violent demonstration, is that somebody has been starved, some property has been destroyed. So you indicate the number of people starved, the number of people injured, the number of properties destroyed. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? To me, that is violence. Now, you can have a threat, somebody holding a knife, etc. Well, you say that the person is armed. What is his intention? That's another matter. That's another story. But for me, the story I'm interested in is how many economic forces were injured. How many police forces were injured? Were they injured with batons and knives, with stones, etc.? When all that happened, was it aggression or reaction? Did they come with that? Is it offensive or is it defensive? Those are things that you examine to know the gravity of the situation and how to address it. Nobody is saying somebody has a knife or not. Well, that's immaterial as far as I'm concerned. Somebody may have had a knife, I'm like it. But for me, in my analysis, that is immaterial. Because what I'm interested in now is the people on the other side. What injuries came to them? What injuries came to their transport, etc., etc., etc. So if you tell me that, then I can determine the gravity of the threat. As far as I can see, I do not see a very grave threat to the state. I see public order, people showing anger. They may have insulted, they may have done this, they may have said soldiers must leave Kanilai, etc. And if people say soldiers must leave Kanilai, for the next century they leave Kanilai, would the soldiers leave Kanilai? Did they have power to make them leave Kanilai? If they had power, would they be running now to escape arrest? So, we've generally said this. Even under the past regime, people will come, go to the village, people remove Jamia the next day, just come to Kanilai, you will see, just come to this place. That used to happen. We call it scarecrow tactic. because you go and say everything that you're going to do to Gambia, and then you have no force to do it. That is just. So that's the problem. And now it's the same thing. You check the WhatsApp and you hear somebody will say everything about Barrow. I think somebody told us that when we had a central committee meeting, that somebody was threatening that if people go to Kanilai, this will happen. But all this killing are taking place, people are running away. Where are those people who say we are going to fight when we come? The soldiers should not worry, we are going to handle them. These are things that Gambians must now outgrow if we really want a better future. We must know that people will have grievances. Even I myself, how many people will hate me and convey hate messages against me? So if I want to say everybody who's hate me, I'm going to take you to the police station because I think you all know, because there was a press conference by senior members of government. And in that press conference, a foreign journalist had a problem. But listening to the tape, you see a woman saying, Halifa Sallah, nafe kolam. I can identify a particular person. I hope someday I'll see the person and say, okay, now tell me my nafe haya. So what is that? But the situation is, all that evil statement is everywhere on all sides. And we should not fist on that to try to create threats to a nation that will not take us anywhere. And this is not for us to be joyous and in life. I'm saying let's understand the problem and let's contain it. Now, yes, we are taking action. Before we call this conference, we have many several central committee meetings, received information. We've seen state authorities at the National Assembly. The discussion has taken place at the relevant committees, the phony MPs. So there is massive consultation before we actually came to this press conference. And I must say that everywhere we have gone, either at the state level, the National Assembly level, we had open ears and willing partners to really look at the issue in a new way. And I believe the new way we've injected is actually catching the eyes of many people. Thank you.
Yes, sir, madam. Come closer. It's okay. Speak louder.
I personally have been in Kanilai when the incident happened. I have spoken to some people.
Boy.
GRTS mic. The GRTS mic.
Which one is it?
Yeah, that's one. This one.
Okay, like I was saying, I was in Kanilai when the incident happened. I think 2 days later. I've spoken to so many people on the ground, and these people are like, they are not angry with economic, but they don't want to see the Senegalese forces in Kanilai, not even the Gambia armed forces, but the Senegalese, because they say the Senegalese are trying to keep us to one stone. They're trying to fight a long-term war against this war with the rebels, and also trying to protect the economic mandate or their mandate in the Gambia. So I think this is something that the people can look through and then see whether you can talk to the government. If there's any possibility, because we have the Ghanaian forces here, the Nigerians. Look at Bara, for instance. The Ghanaians are there. Every now and then there's push and pull, but you never hear any cry. So if they can recruit the Senegalese troops from Kanilai, take them to Bara, they are closer to that place, they have a car there, they can be around again. So they bring the Ghanaian forces or the Nigerian forces and then see try to see whether that will work. If that doesn't work, then we can know whether the Kanilai people have a problem personally or definitely. I think that is good. That's just a suggestion that I want you to look into and let's see whether there is any possibility of making sure that this is, because it's escalating and we don't know where it's going to happen. Or it can be anywhere. That is one. And two, that is not about economic, but it's about trying to channel this to you guys. Talk to the Gambia and forces. Let them tell people where the command is coming from. Because we all know that the firing like bullets goes to last order. So who gives orders for fire? Is it the Gambia and forces or the Islamic High Command? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It is important to know where power lies and what could be done under all circumstances. In a way, we must try to wear the shoes of the decision maker to know what is a realistic decision. First and foremost, to know what happened in Kanilai, you need first a coroner's inquest to establish the cause of death and how it came about. You may also establish a commission of inquiry to do an investigation, and they will give you a report of exactly what has happened. So that is a way of knowing the problem. Now, from your own observation, you've said that, well, maybe the people in Kanilai have no problem with Gambian forces, it's just with the Senegalese forces per se. Well, you know, we must be realistic. When you're a human being, and you don't want something, you don't want to see that. That's natural. We should not fool each other. Some people don't want Halifa Sallah to exist in it, so if I die, they will go and clap and sing. You know, they may hide it, but in reality, that is who they are. So to say somebody hates somebody, don't like somebody, well, that is the reality of the country. That's why we even pray and say, so that you will not have. You pray that you have enemies, but they will not be able to do something. This is all part of our culture. We know that enmity exists. If the people of Kanilai say they don't want the forces there, well, that's their natural feeling. And any of them who say we like them, but you know that the person is trying to placate you. That person will want that force to be uprooted. But that's not the issue. Even if they shout, let them go out, etc. That's an issue. The issue is the forces exist in the Gambia. And shouting at the level of Kanilai will not get them out of it. So what do we do under these circumstances? I think I've said it very clearly. That these forces came when Kanilai was there, the rebels were in Casamas, everything, the status quo remained. But there was killing in the Gambia, there was no killing in the Gambia, nothing, everything was moving smooth. Now they are a force of solidarity. We expect greater tranquility, greater peace. So if we see that that peace has not occurred in that particular place, it is the duty of the government, also our duty, by giving advice to see how the peace could come. And you've made some recommendations. That's the type of recommendation that should come from a commission of inquiry. That will move these forces, get those other forces, because there may be suspicion, there may be old hostility, there may be other consideration. So that may be the reason why you should have the forces change and others. These are things that they consider in peacekeeping. And they should be considered. But to me, rather than saying these forces should not even be there, I believe if the forces are injected with Republican values, in fact, they are the people who will prove, because the issue, Casamance, the way it is defined, is not supposed to be in a state of war. There is peace and reconciliation efforts being made. In fact, the Gambian situation should have facilitated that process to ensure that you move to promote that peace and reconciliation, because it's a border area. You have all these logs coming from Casamance, coming into the Gambia. These are business interests. You know, it is serving some people in Casamance, it is serving some people in Gambia. Even if you try to block them this way, they will always find routes of smuggling. So these two countries are destined to work together. So this should have been the opportunity for the two governments to look into all these issues and see how they can work together to greater stability in Casamance and greater harmony between the people in the different villages. So that could have been an asset, and I have no doubt that if those forces from the initial phase came up with doctors being part of the contingent, you look at whatever Kanilai needs, you know, in terms of funding, and they provide those services, they integrate with the community. At the end of the day, you know, the community will accept them, and the fears they had before will dissipate. And those communities will now serve as, in fact, a source of reconciliation with the rebels rather than a source of confrontation. So my contention is that it's not about the forces staying away. It's more the policy that is being adopted in terms of the mandate of those soldiers and the approaches they are taking. That needs to change immediately, and we are going to work very hard for that to change immediately.
I'm Lamin Kande, iAfrica TV. I have 3 questions to ask, if possible. My first one is currently what is troubling on media is Kanilai is said to be a threat to national security. I want your take on that. The other one is Halifa and Doy. Your relationship with God, can you shed light on that? Because there are a lot of speculations regarding that issue. And the final one is, if I can get you right on your statement, you call on the government to release another statement different from the one that the Interior Minister gave at the aftermath of the incident. Why? Is it that that statement doesn't go well to many, or what? Or what are the type of statements that we Gambians need to expect different from the one that was made? Then you have to call on the government to release another one.
Thank you very much. Kanilai a threat to state security or national security? I'm sure some findings I have made, I will not mention the name because I'm not authorized to do so. But there seems to be about 42 villages in Kansas, and Kanilai is just one of those villages. So how could one village be a threat, you know, to a nation? And a village where shooting has already taken place and death has occurred, sort of a illegal curfew established where you can go into the compounds and people are running helter-skelter. Well, how could such people be a threat to a nation? So really, I think those comments are exaggerated, and we need to think about the residents of Kanilai, not an extension of Kanilai to the rebel movement in Casamance. What is important is to restrict Kanilai to its residents and know that they are Gambians. Their sovereignty needs to be protected, and their liberty, dignity, and prosperity needs to be protected. That is really should be the concern of every Gambian. And any Gambian who does not think in that way is really not a Gambian yet. And there are many people who are not Gambians yet, and they're entitled to that. You know, they belong to ethnic groups, they belong to religious groups, they belong to sectionalist groups. Well, it happens in every nation, and they have a right to exist, they have a right to opinion. But I believe the opinion of the vast majority of Gambians is to recognize the residents of Kanilai to be residents of the Gambia and should be protected. That's how I see it. And I must say that even in the last registration exercise, DOI sent a person to monitor registration in Kanilai. And we prevented, I don't know how many people, I do not want to speculate, from being registered right there in Kanilai because of underage. And that was done there in Kanilai. So, in essence, that person, the villagers did not come and beat that person and say, no, I have no right to come to Kanilai. So, in short, I think there is a lot of mystification. And we must not make the ex-president to be the owner of Kanilai, or to believe that he was in harmony with everybody in Kanilai, or use the people of Kanilai. We must really separate issues. We have to take issues for what they are. I think that is important. Two, well, I don't know why people continue asking me. Maybe they should go and ask him. Because I've been asked this question over and over again, and I've kept on emphasizing that we became a part of the coalition because of our mission. To get one person, an independent candidate, being supported, so that the person will not be or alleged to any political party. And for that person to stay 3 years, so that that person will not be seen to have any urge to stay in power. So in that way, you will not see him as a power-hungry person. So we believe that with that type of administration, supported by all Gambians, will give Gambia a new start. And we have gone all the way, the impasse. We walked, and I have emphasized here, when he was in Senegal, I was here. We ensured that there was no looting in this country, nothing whatsoever. Gambia was a stable country. So in that sense, I believe that respect, that honor, that unity remains. That what we have, different arenas. When somebody becomes president, that person is president, and that person will make decisions. Like we are talking about Kanilai. This is our opinion. Will President Bauer take this opinion as his opinion? Well, you cannot impose him and say, because you're president, you must take my opinion. And that's why a president must not be so interpreted to be under the side of this or that group or this side, because the person is an individual and can change by minutes and hours and seconds. So what is important is always give an advice to the president, and he will take the advice best suited for him, the advice he or she should give. So I believe that at this stage, anytime I wish to see President Mao, I will see him. Anytime I wish to see a minister, I will see him. And I believe that what I say is valid. And therefore, I do take opportunity to seek audience on certain issues that are of national matter. So in that sense, that is the relationship. As a part of the national leadership, anything that is of concern, we consider it as our duty to see those people in authority and express our opinion. Whether they take it or not is another matter. So your last
statement.
Yes, we are saying another statement because when death occurs, you have to acknowledge that. Because you're not talking to Gambians, you're not talking to the people of Kanilai. The speech is as if you're talking to the people of Kanilai and by extension, all those who want to bring trouble to the people of Kanilai. When situations like that occur, it's the death that restrains everything. It's to acknowledge that death has occurred. Unfortunately, coroner's inquest is taking place. We wait for the report before we take action. So it gives you a breathing space to come up with the right statement, to listen to all opinions before you come up with a government opinion. I believe they came up with a government opinion which was very on time.
It's on time.
It's on time. I believe they should have restrained an aspect of the government opinion by simply recognizing the death and showing that coroner's inquest will be done, and they will be willing to act in accordance with the advice of the court. That's my, that should have been the statement. But now, the type of statement that we expect from them after knowing all the facts is really to be able to show a new government that the government was able to build and still able to build, and try to win the confidence of all sectors of Gambia to show that the Kanilai people are not people isolated from the Gambia. They are the people of the Gambia. That message is necessary, to enable people to diffuse sectionalist feelings and sectionalist values. I think that's very important.
Yes, Janki.
I am Janki Drame. Wow. I don't know even what to say, because I am not a supporter of PDOIS. Never supported the party, but I think someone who doesn't support PDOIS shouldn't be listening to him. Otherwise, you would definitely agree. To be honest, yeah, this was a statement that I expected from Baru, what Halifa Sallah had said. It is not about Kanilai, it's about Haruna Jada, family, people. As Denke Dramel said, even if I'm not supporting APR or other party, that individual party, if someone has killed my dad, what do I expect from the people, or what should I expect from the government? To me, this is similar to Solo Sandling. Solo Sandling did the same thing. And everyone, every Gambian, even me, when I was supporting the APRC, I wasn't happy about it. I was working at GRS. I didn't say anything. I kept quiet because I knew what it's going to be. But for Interior Minister coming on TV, telling us you either consume by the law or obey by the law or consume by the law, that really makes me angry. And I don't talk as a good government or good government. That's how you should talk. Even when they throw, even your dog died, you should know where they throw your dog. And President Barrow didn't say anything. Nothing. Everyone is complaining. That's not what we expect from New Gambia. And we cannot take you out from the New Gambia because you are also there. But I am really touched with your statement. And I think, wow. I think today, I don't know. Halifa Sallah has, I don't know what to say. Anyway, thank you.
Can he respond to it?
Well, it's not a question. I think she's expressing an opinion that sometimes objectivity heals. It helps people to heal. So when something happens, even to a person you consider your opponent, say things that make that person to heal. And that creates reconciliation. Things can be very big, but if you make statements that will enable the person to heal, then that is part of the solution.
Excellent.
So we've not had statement yet that will enable people to heal. I think that's really anchored. And we take note of that. And I'm sure the government will also
Ferdinand?
My name is Rose Gamen from the Point newspaper. Okay, my question is, did the government done any investigation to ask the problem of the Kanilai people? What is their problem? To make solution, because they are Gambians and they are part of the Gambia. And my other question is, in these recent incidents we have, like the Farato and Kanilai incident, are they also part of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that we are waiting for?
Thank you for asking those questions. Bear in mind that I'm speaking here as Doy, not necessarily speaking for the government or for the opposition. It is important for us to know that the Minister of Justice held a national conference on the issue of transitional justice as well as the constitutional and order reform. This was a package one is anticipating that after all the opinions were expressed, that we'll expect policy, we'll expect law, we'll expect institutions to emerge that will handle this issue. So far, I think that's how far things have gone. And our recommendation today is that, be it Kanilai or Farah, it is important to establish a transitional justice system where the federal government will start with its own challenges to give the example of how such a justice system will enable to give justice with reconciliation. I believe that would be a very novel idea and a welcome idea. And that may be the instrument through which the Gambia can begin again to have hope of the new start. I would suggest I would want to focus. You've asked me whether they have investigated. Well, that's what we are recommending, that before statements are issued, investigation should be done to know what the grievances of those people are. Because sometimes the grievances come spontaneously. The person being angry and saying, and you can say, you didn't come to me. But as long as you know the grievance, that is what is important. So now that it is known, well, careful investigation should be done to know the grievances and try to address them. That's how you prevent a recurrence.
Next. Next. Okay. Recently, we have seen after what happened in Kanilai that there was a statement from the state, but we believe this statement was hasty because they should have taken time to investigate issues. And we hope that they would take your recommendations, and also that they would investigate every issue before coming to the people to give information, because there seems to be two versions of the story. What the state seems to say, and what the people of Kanilai, or investigations from journalists, seems to show a different, how to call it, seems to be a different version. So we hope that people are worried that their interesting times lies ahead of what the new Gambia is about. Is it the Gambia that we fought for? Or is it the Gambia that politicians are just going to hijack the democracy and just run with it just like that? That's one comment. And the other one is about, recently we have seen that just yesterday we learned that Babakar C, Senior OC, was arrested and is in police custody because of the fact that he was involved in a peaceful protest and assembled in Kololi, I think. Kololi, yes, because of the youth in that area, particular area, there seems to be a dispute about a football field. That was also a peaceful assembly, I believe. Just like the Kanilai incident, there seems to be a lot of issues circulating the issue of permits. We hope that the National Assembly will take up the due responsibility in order to review all of these laws that we think are undermining our democracy, freedom, and the rule of law.
Thank you very much. I believe certain things are interconnected. You've seen the Farado incident, and then the Kanilai incident, now we're talking about another incident. And people are talking about permits, laws. When we were in the opposition, those are the laws that we really believe undermine democracy. And there is attempt to look at them and see how to reform them. Once you are prepared for a reform process, then you must become very tolerant of dissent and give guidance in such a way that both law and practice will be consonant with each other. So the tendency is that if there are breaches, you deal with them by giving guidance and issuing permits to hasten them and legitimize them. That is the best approach, and we will definitely be looking into this to see how we can make those recommendations so that they will follow certain incidents and legitimize them by issuing permits rather than going the other way around by taking legal action against it, because it does not help us in our reform process in the new country. You must bear in mind that many people are also saying that people now, they are taking the law into their own hands. They see New Gambia as a Gambia without law, and they perpetuate that ad infinitum, to a point that it is getting to authorities and the security forces that maybe they are lax. That is why what is happening is happening. But we all know that President Awards came in during Jamles, went to demonstration up to the bridge and they were arrested. We all know that St. Augustine's High School was almost in flames, with rocks being thrown, etc. How many demonstrations during Jamles? But they give the impression, he was a strong man. And when they were a strong man, people dared not do something. But now they're there. But you know that that is not a fact. That the government was just placating the face of people. Look at the cartoon incident. So the man knew how to appear strong. Anytime he appeared weak, it's just that he was a better strategist than most Gambians. So, he knows when to yield, but yield from a position of strength. What did he do in Khartoum? These people were taken to Birkama, eventually he went, well, they are going to forgive them, and then at the end. So the situation is that governance is not only strong hand, it is also developing tactics and techniques and accommodation and talking to people. Sometimes you do things underneath to really calm things, to control things. And I believe that there is greater need for experience and maturity in administration. And once that is enhanced, maybe we will contain some of it. For example, the land issue. Well, this is something you are inheriting. When you are inheriting something that is at a crisis level, you do not come and just use strong arm. It means that you could have used the land commission to start to review all the land issues again, and then through that you'll be able to even have a scheme. Because if you see that one alcalde has sold a land to 3 people, well, that is caused by the alcalde. But then you can help to solve the problem of the people by looking for another land space. Those who have not built, maybe you can give them another land as compensation. Then your problem is with the alcalde. Either you are going to name and shame him or whatever. But these are methods that a new government must adopt as transitional, so that you do not run into confrontation with your own people. I believe that this is what must be done.
Lamin Sati.
Good afternoon, Honorable Sallah, and thank you very much, Madam, for giving me the platform. Well, I must say I feel sincerely honored for the enlightenment facts in this press conference. I would like to start with a comment and then a question. My comment is, my recommendation or comment is that I think we as Gambian citizens, we demand more from this present legislative body that is being instituted. Because in the previous regime, power was said to be concentrated in one arm, rather was the executive arm. Now that we have independent elected National Assembly members in the parliament, I expect they need to do more in terms of providing checks and balances in the government. My statement will lead to the issue of the interior minister and the state. Gambia recommendations have shown that the most sensitive ministry in the Gambia right now is the Ministry of Interior. For the fact that this is the first time Gambia have decided to take executive power from one arm and give it another arm. Some people are feeling very disgruntled by this move, and they are determined to do all kinds of things. So we need somebody who is fully disciplined, with high values, to take care of that position, making sure that there is no confrontation or eventual civil war in the country. I'm very much disappointed in so many statements issued by the state minister, starting with the alleged investment of the state offers by President Jammeh, the starting of Halifa Sallah as post-parliament coalition, the issue of Farado saying the police were acting on a court order. This order was never seen. Also saying Jammeh the alcalde of Kanilai have absconded. This was not true. Also, the same minister was saying that the Kanilai protesters were armed with traditional weapons, which were never sold to the press. Therefore, my question is, don't you think the National Assembly is being big pertaining to their role of making sure that they hold government ministers accountable to the citizens by calling him or summoning him to the national parliament and asking him why do you say such a statement before the state? Because I don't think his statement is an opinion. Anytime the honorable minister gives a statement, his statement is an official statement of the state. That it must be nothing but a fact. That's how my thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. There are two issues there. The issue of the separation of powers, and that is true. The National Assembly has responsibility of oversight. It's a very powerful institution, extremely powerful institution. Because under Section 75 of the Constitution, you can cast a vote of censure. You can remove a minister from office. That's how powerful the National Assembly is. But the National Assembly members are weakened by one fact, that Section 91(1)(d), which enabled party leaders and their executives to be able to drive some of their members from their parties, and as a result they lose their seats. I think many National Assembly members are calling for the amendment of that particular provision so that they will be able to be more independent to exercise their mind. And I believe that once that happens, definitely the National Assembly members will have powers of oversight that will prevent any abuse. But again, you've mentioned many things about an individual, but you concluded by saying that the individual is responsible for speaking for the government. I think that's what matters there. That cabinet is about collective responsibility. And since it's a collective responsibility, when a particular minister speaks in another way, and we believe that that's not the right thing, then cabinet should sit and look at that thing and see whether you do not need a change of heart and you do not need something else. So I believe that cabinet is also an oversight, and sometimes you may blame a particular minister when that person is actually speaking the mind of others. Or maybe it's just reading a statement already prepared as a state document. Because we've not had any other statement issued that counters the statement he has given. So therefore, in some instances, one may just be the, sacrificial lamb sometimes. So even though you may have some grievance against a person, but I think since it's an issue which is official, definitely the statement is a government statement, and we will not attribute it just to a minister. We say that's why we are saying the government should come up with another statement. The second dimension that you mentioned is the separation of powers. Yes, in fact, there are many things that have taken place in light of this situation, and I'm sure the appropriate body in the National Assembly will ultimately report to the National Assembly, and you will hear the debate. This issue, I'm sure, will be debated, and most likely a fiery debate in the National Assembly. Maybe you've just started to preempt the debate, and I'm sure you will witness it.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Well, I have two questions. Well, one is with regard to the reports based on that guys, probably will be what's your take? And the other issue is like, apart from this press conference, how do you like? What would you take with regard to the date of Armageddon? But I can put it, even because we're going to examine nothing Saturday, it's not yet ready. What would you take apart from the press conference, the date of Armageddon?
Yes, the situation that you have mentioned should be treated in a comprehensive manner. What I have done is to present to you a very comprehensive picture of the issue. But if you separate them, as some newspapers will do, you just quote what you want to put
put it at Barrow, then it will be distort the whole situation. I have said very clearly, and if the statement is put comprehensively, that there should be a coroner's inquest. And the post-mortem is not the end of the story. Post-mortem, ultimately, if you have a coroner's inquest, the person who has done the post-mortem, pathologists will be invited to, as a witness, to present a report. And it will be an open forum. I think you remember the April 10th, 11 coroner's inquest. We recommended that, and it did happen. It was followed by a commission of inquiry. Even the Korea journalists, we made them to go and testify because we were in the street, we saw what happened. And if you read the final report, you will see all those testimonies being part of the addendum of the report. So it is important to hold a coroner's inquest. Then you will see that without inquiry, everybody will come and give evidence. And that's what is important. So at the end of the day, you get the facts because everybody who has something to say will be there to say, something. I believe that is the way forward for the case itself. And it's the same thing as we said with Aaron. What we are recommending as well is let's take the due process of a coroner's inquest. And if all the facts are yet to be available, then a commission should be able to do that. A truth and reconciliation should also be able to do that. We are saying transitional justice mechanism could be in place. It should even be the starting point in order to give Gambia the new start and prevent the reform instead of
Yes, issues of national securities are always complicated. So, and most of us here are all here to listen to your opinion because I believe that you are not working with the government at this point. So, my question is, some people are saying mine is overstepping. I don't want to be here accusing people, but that's what I'm hearing from the public, that he is overstepping his duties as Minister of Interior. Sometimes he should not even issue statements. And who should, in your opinion, issue statement on behalf of the government? Is it President Barrow himself, or should there be a Minister of Defense dealing with issues of submit? And the next issue that I want to put to you is the issue of the Vice President. Yes, it is 4 months now we've not had any announcement from Barrow that the Gambia is having a Vice President in this new administration, transitional administration. Some are calling Barrow as a rebel of refusing to give us a Vice President. What is your opinion on that?
Well, what we have seen is that it's a government that we have worked to bring about, that is a change. And now there is an executive who is an executive. He does not belong to anybody. Because when you give executive power, then he does not have to listen to anybody. And the only people who could impeach him is the National Assembly. And the reality is that in the National Assembly, no group has 2/3 majority to cast a vote of no confidence. So definitely, he is a very comfortable president under the circumstances. And he should really take many difficult decisions if he wishes to do so. Point number 1. I don't think it's fair to accuse any minister of anything. Because the way cabinet works is collective responsibility. And as long as that minister is not sanctioned by cabinet, well, if we make accusations, we're just making accusations. But in reality, we cannot really back them. So you cannot talk about overstepping bounds unless it is a constitutional matter. And obviously, when bounds were exceeded in taking a bill to the National Assembly about the 65 years, when the proper constitutional methods were not, procedures were not followed, there was exposure. So the bounds were restricted, and obviously the bill was not signed by the president. Now, in a similar vein, the reality is the Constitution says that cabinet comprises president, vice president, and the minister. Well, it's vice president specifically. In the same vein, on Section 77 of the Constitution, it It says that if the president has anything, any business in the National Assembly, only the vice president will represent the president. Under Section 70, a vice president must come to a point where he's appointed and must meet all his qualifications. But the Constitution also says that the vice president must be sworn in before you act in office. So now, if you have not sworn in a vice president, somebody is a caretaker of that office. How can that person be vice president? Because nobody is sworn in as vice president. That person doesn't know. So the issue really becomes contentious, and it does not help the image of the presidency. And everybody has talked about it, whether Gambians or the international community. It's an issue. But what is the reason? Only President Bush will be able to answer that question. I hope that we will encourage him more and more to have more press conferences, so that these questions could be posed to him. And that serves as a pressure for a president that you do something about certain issues. But if you are isolated for too long, you don't know really how the people are thinking. I think, therefore, that will be one recommendation that we make here, is for him to hold no press conferences so that these issues can be put and for him to answer.
Any order?
Yes.
Huh? Okay, can you?
This one is regarding the asset of the former president. You said it in your deliberation that the former president and the regional bloc and the United Nations agreed on something, that is for his properties and supporters to be protected. The current move of the Gambia government, do you think is in the right direction, especially regarding an agreement from a global body agreed with the former leader? How will it be? Because if things doesn't go well, it may bounce back if those same body want to agree with another leader in other part of the world. What's your take on that?
Gambia is very unique in the transition. And that uniqueness must be preserved and respected. The uniqueness is that there was no real agreement between Barrow and
no real agreement.
I'm saying there's no real agreement of something negotiated and both sides, it comes out as an agreement between an incoming and an expiring president. So what was done was what we call a gentleman's agreement, where the leaders who did the negotiation agreed with him that these terms are legitimate, based on an earlier letter written by the coalition, by the to indicate that he would be willing to treat Gambia as an ex-head of state who will have all the entitlements of a former head of state. Okay, an existing letter of that nature exists, because that was the time when we were trying to convince him to hand over peace. And it seems that the negotiators utilize this correspondence to come up with a text in order to get him to agree to the text, because they are head of state, then we can rely on them and say, well, we've asked you to do it. Now, how does that stand now? Well, there are so many things that are happening. You don't know where the recommendations are coming and when they have been thought about. Yes, those are issues. There are issues of freezing assets, there are issues of claiming of certain things having to be done. But the issue now is, what are those assets? What does freezing mean? Does it mean that all those who are handling the assets and what, you just fold their arms, So if there are, for example, food to eat or animals to keep, so who will be responsible for that? What will be the legal basis of like, if it is a perishable food? Who would actually say that this food that is perishing should be given to somebody so that it will not perish? Who will make the decision? So in essence, these are things that you don't issue in the public space because it's like playing to the garage. These are issues you sit down and consider and review based on a committee that you set up, because the government must set committees and commissions to look into issues so that you can know how to handle things. You hear a lot of opinions coming, including the opinion that the right steps are really not being taken. But you see, when you have political issues, political supporters tell you are leaving this man, you must do this, ban APRC order. If you are the type of politician who would not want your constituency to feel that, well, you are not doing the things that they want, you may end up going to the extreme and do things that ultimately you cannot really defend. And it may lead to the spoiling of so many different things, as well as the breaching of confidence that should be done. There are ways of doing things, and you must give yourself time to do it. If you need to build institution, build the institution before going. If you say truth and reconciliation, well, work on that. And then take up all issues that need to be taken under that umbrella. I think that is important.
Any other who are not yet? You are second. Any other person will not be given?
Can I ask this question, please? I want to try an advice from President about the Islam to governance. The real issue that was raised about the Vice President. Have you ever advised about the Vice President?
Well, yes, people could continue to tie me to the issue. Yes, well, you know, there was an appointment, but I think I've explained my position too, that the intention was to become a National Assembly member. So I could not take the position of an executive advisor. So what we have is voluntary advice, meaning that whenever he feels that there is an issue we want to discuss with you, if he contacts me, I will go and discuss the issue. If I see certain issue that I believe that is necessary to discuss with him, well, then it's my duty to go and discuss those issues. But it will not be the issue of day-to-day governance or issue that ministers are handling, because they are his principal advisors. Ministers are his principal advisors. But there is an issue where we see that the public is really concerned that the right thing is not being done. The issue of the Vice President was discussed. I think you know that. Whilst he was in Dhaka, I was talking with this and you had danger there. Many people did not know that the country was in danger. In the sense that under the Constitution, where there is no president, the Vice President is to assume office. And where there is no Vice President, the Speaker of the National Assembly should assume office. Whilst Barone was in Dhaka, there was no Vice President, and the Speaker of the National Assembly was APRC. So at that time, if anything happened to Barone, what would have happened? Speaker. So you see, there are many things we could not say to the public. It is just between us, knowing that something had to be done. And I think this is where they faced the decision of getting a Vice President and not looking at all the details. But could we even say that now? Because I believe you read my statement, you heard my statement, you were there when things started being exposed on the 65. We quoted the Constitution and said that that's what the Constitution says. You cannot be a Vice President if you are not qualified to stand as a presidential candidate. So you must fit all the terms of a presidential candidate before you. And we issued it then in public. So one cannot say that the president was not there. But the issue is, will he or will he not make a decision? Are there other obligations? You know, this is the difficulty of transitional government. Because at the end of the day, you will feel obligation to so many people that may not give you a free hand to make the decisions that are expected of you. But we cannot make excuse for you. I believe our recommendation for him to hold more frequent press conferences is the best recommendation, so that we will answer this one.
Thank you.
My final question, sir, is pertaining to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. This was key in the coalition manifesto. And up to now, there is a outcry among the citizens for the formation of this body, Truth and Reconciliation Commission. In my opinion, I want to believe the setting of that commission is becoming too late in the coming now. Because the key units that needs to be reconciled in this country are those people that are supportive of President Jammeh, in which Fonyi is key. And when we have destabilizing movements at least three times in Fonyi, resulting in a death, I don't think, in my opinion, formation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission will do more good as to when it is done in the past 3 months or 4 months back. My question to you, sir, after this comment is that, do you even think it's necessary to have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the Gambia? Because from all the books that I read about Truth and Reconciliation Commission, they are formed in countries that are just from the civil war. Example, Rwanda, you have Liberia and Sierra Leone. It's only in the case of South Africa where I've seen a Truth and Reconciliation Commission after the apartheid government was overthrown. But the apartheid government was accused of state-orchestrated mass murders and massacres that had not happened under President Jammeh. So, is it not necessary to have only transitional justice in the Gambia and forget about the Reconciliation Commission? That's my question.
Yes, I think transitional justice embodies methods, and one of the methods is Truth and Reconciliation. We are looking for a method that is more appropriate for the Gambia. I think thoughts about establishing human rights commissions and all this. So many institutions are being considered. There was a conference very recently dealing with these elements that you have mentioned. Now, clearly, if we look at the current tension in the country, there is need for reconciliation. And you cannot have reconciliation without truth. And so, therefore, my thinking that is, we are still in need of the institution, and the fact that certain things are recorded, that are things of the past, I believe makes it more urgent now to have such a commission which maybe you would not want to handle certain issues under the existing due process, so that you go beyond just due process into other means of educating the public and promoting healing, which will be faster. I believe that this is really idea still. Agreed is becoming rather late, but bear in mind that it's just 6 months since there's assumption of office. There is still some concerns, and it may not be very late at the moment to pursue the same agenda, because Gambia is unique in the sense that the way we brought about the change definitely was done because of hope. Because if even those who are against change did not have hope and felt a great deal of threat, then maybe they would have destabilized more. But the fact that there was hope, hope for both the people who brought about the change and those who were against the change, of a new Gambia, a new start, I believe that is the architecture for our peace. And we must not lose sight of that. I constantly tell people all over, when I have their symposia, that to me, all Gambians should know how the peace came about. That on the 18th, we all knew that the ECOWAS forces are outside with mighty weapons. But that cannot bring about our peace, because if those weapons were used, we will not be here. They also had to be restrained. At that material time, they were not instruments of peace. They were instruments of war. And if that war came about, we will not have peace. So ECOWAS helped to galvanize strength, but was not the architect of the peace of this country. That must be understood. The peace of the country was brought about by us, the Gambians, by ensuring that the military force refused to capitulate to Gambia. The police the same, all the security apparatus left him, the ministers left him, the ambassadors left him, and his supporters were all inside their compounds, and our supporters, so every Gambian went into quietude. So there were only shadows in the street. And Gambia was governing only shadows, and I believe anybody who governs shadows will know that you are not governing people who will defend you. So it's better to leave. And really, with sincerity, I'm not trying to caricature, but this is the reality. There were only shadows to govern. And we know that shadows cannot defend. And we did not see people with banners and say, we are this ethnic group, so all of you sit down, we are going to remove Gambia from the state house. That didn't happen between 18 and 24. We didn't see people say, we are the political party. Now all political parties sit down, we are with our banners, we are going to remove Gambia for you. That did not happen. Or this gender, no. So we should not claim that this party or this ethnic group or this remove Gambia. No. We collectively, our collective intelligence, our collective strategies, our collective tactics eventually made it impossible for him to stay and govern the country, and he left. So this is the reality. So as we sit now, we should consolidate that. That will be the cornerstone of our security.
Thank you very much. I hope you exhausted. So thank you very much for coming, and I hope you have learned something. So let us give you that. Thank you very much.
Well, there is one thing that I'll just make clear, which some people have been asking us about the sugar. And also the dates, because we've been offered dates, we've been offered sugar to distribute as, first the sugar as party, and dates as National Assembly members. So what we have done in that regard, the dates coming from the council, we've told them that the National Assembly member cannot go and distribute dates as if he is giving dates to people for political reasons. So what we can do is to identify the mosques in the constituency and know the number of boxes of dates. So we restrict it to those mosques. Then we'll go to the council and move with the council to those mosques, and it will be delivered. And if they need to explain where the dates come from, they'll explain it because it is coming from them. That is how we've handled that. In terms of the sugar also, what we are trying to agree, we cannot say so fully because we want the social welfare to be utilized. So we'll consult them tomorrow. If they can agree to go and collect the bags of sugar, then we'll announce that social welfare has this bags of sugar, and anybody who is poor and believes that they can benefit, and then they can go there and collect what they can collect. This is really our position in terms of
Joint position or
Joint position.
Joint sugar will be distributed in that form?
No, it's not our sugar. We are saying the sugar that is coming from the state house. We are proposing, well, it is offered, but we have not taken it. It is offered to us, but we have not taken. We are redirecting it to the social welfare department. If they accept, if the social welfare accepts. Otherwise, it will remain at the state house.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, we'll give it to you right away. So if you can give us your email so that we can give you the version. We'll give you
You can send your email, then we will send you the version of the statement. Yeah, okay.